everybody, how's it going? Welcome to part 3 of the Harley Sportster petrol tank facelift, if you like it. We've got it all prepared, well, nearly prepared. We've got the base color done and we're very happy with it. So today we're going to prepare it for airbrushing and hopefully start the airbrushing process as well. Whether I'm going to finish this in this video, I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to show you the steps I'll take to get any piece of work ready to be airbrushed and then clear coated. So let's do this. Right, so first thing I want to do with this guy, I want to put some sandpaper to it again. I know we just done nicely finished paint job, and now I'm going to ruin it all over again. Well, that is the case. So I'm going to start with most probably 800 grit wet and dry. The reason for this, I need to have a abrasive enough surface, matte enough surface for the airbrush paint to stick on, kind of, and then I need to clear coat on top of it, because obviously airbrushing needs to be cleared in order to stay there forever and ever. So I want to prepare, basically I want to prepare it as well as I would prepare it for clear coating. We're going to start with 800 grit wet and dry, and if that's not smooth enough, I'm going to move on to 1000, but I'll see how that goes. So that's the first task of today, just getting it done for airbrushing. Let's join me, guys, and let's do this. You see how the water beads up on the petrol tank right now? This is typical for the brand new fresh paint job, or just any kind of paint job. So what we're aiming for the water to kind of not mold, but kind of join the petrol tank on a molecular level in a way. So we need to sand it down until we see no beading basically on the surface of a petrol tank. At the moment this is all over the surface. The water doesn't really absorb, well, it's not absorbing anyway, but it doesn't stick as well as it's gonna do at later stage. So that's one good indication of visually showing whether we're doing a good job or not. So what we need to do, we need to sand it down until water no longer beads on it. I'll show you in a little bit. So there we have it, just a few minutes of rubbing it down with 800 grit. Even if I dry it off now, as you will see, you're rubbing off the actual color. In my case this is black. If you have yellow, that will be yellow. If you have blue, that will be blue, and so on and so forth. So even if I dry it off now, as you can see, I'm taking off the shine from the complete piece, and if I put some water on it, no longer beads, does it? When I didn't touch it, you can see the beading on the surface of a petrol tank, right? Water just runs down of it. But when I already done some work on it, it just absorbs completely. Yeah. So that's one thing you need to look into as well while you're preparing that. Right. Let me rub down the rest of the petrol tank, and we take it from there. So there we go, sometime later, and it's all done. It's nearly prepared for airbrushing. Well, I said nearly because there's a couple more steps I need to take before I pick up with an airbrush. But it has been sanded down. As you can see, all the shine has been knocked off, and you can see the surface is not very attractive right now. It's all kind of matte looking, and you got some scratches, and it's an uneven surface. It's looking quite ugly as it is. But don't worry, this all will be clear coated, and this is a surface ideally you need before clear coating anyway, or airbrushing in that case. If you ever worry that your art, well, not art, your item is looking a bit dull before you apply clear coat to it, just pour some water on it, and it will nicely should absorb, spread evenly everywhere, and then you will see that will give you an idea more or less how would it look with clear coat on top of that. because if the item is still wet, it looks absolutely perfect, you know, gloss black, as you want it, as it should be. So I'm very confident this is going to look equally as good with the clear coat I'm going to put later on it. But before that, we need to degrease it and do some other steps before we actually start airbrushing. I've been on this thing for a couple of days now, not full days, but you know, good 5 and 4 hours probably now. So it's like a 10 hour of work already, and I haven't even touched my airbrush yet. So there you go. If you're wondering sometimes why airbrush artists charge you quite a bit of money for the airbrushing work, well, there you go. This is exactly why. All the preparation you don't see, you just see the artwork. It's not the case of just taking the petrol tank and painting something on it. It's all the prep before and after that goes to it. Artwork itself is just the cherry on top of the cake. But if you mess up the preparation work, all your hard work doing art, airbrushing, that hours and hours of airbrushing your chosen art, it's gonna go to waste. So it's worth taking time preparing that properly before and after the actual art has been done. Right, enough talk. Let me degrease it and we take it from there. Right, so we're about 3 or 4 days later from the last time you saw me, which is only 5 seconds ago. That's the magic of videos for you. The reason I wait a couple days, 3-4 days before I degrease it is any paint really, especially 2K paint, when you sand it down, when you sand the surface, fresh surface with sandpaper, you kind of reactivate the pores and the chemical process being reactivated again. I can't really explain it on a chemistry kind of level, but that's how it works. Even clear coat, if you got a clear coat, you sand it down and you spray it again immediately, like less than 24 hours after that. It's still curing, kind of reactivating the curing process. You reopen the pores, if you want to name it this way, and that can cause all sorts of issues. So I always like to wait at least 3 days before applying a new coat for it or sanding it down. After sanding down again, I like to wait. You need to cure, you need to air, you need to dry, you need to do its own chemical process. So I always wait a few days. Now it's been probably 4 days since I sanded down again, and I'm gonna degrease it before we start doing some artwork on it. And I'm not gonna use any rough chemicals. I got a proper panel degreaser and de-waxer, wax remover kind of thing. It's very mild, but even nail varnish remover would probably work just fine, but I got the professional stuff, so I'm gonna use that now. So let's do this, and from that point I will try not to touch it with my greasy hands again. Obviously, doing artwork, I will need to touch it, I'll need to maneuver the petrol tank around, but I will try to keep my hands clean, and I will try my very best to do not to any contaminated with my greasy fingers or anything else in that matter. Okay, let's do that, guys. The way I like to work with this stuff, it's don't leave it soak. Have it one clean sheet, one soaked with your de-waxer, grease remover, and dry it off as quickly as you can. Don't let it soak into the paintwork, especially when it's fresh. I found it the best way to work with this stuff. Degrease it and then dry it off with a clean sheet, and again degrease it on the side and dry it off with a clean sheet. This way you don't let the material sit on a fresh paint or freshly sanded paint, because it's prone to be chewed by it or eaten by it, or chemical reaction can appear of some kind of sort. So just to be safe, I like to do it this way. Even though the petrol tank was pretty clean as we started that, because we got some soapy water and we rinsed it with water properly and it was all sanded off and everything, I still like to take that extra step just to make sure everything is as it should be. I'm gonna go ahead, do it all the way around the petrol tank, and I'll show you what I'll do next. Now this is all nearly done, all nearly prepared for the artwork. Now when it comes to the artwork itself, there's also some research and some work that needs to be done just to execute it properly. I've got some guidelines from Dave, which is the customer for this job. He wanted a couple of skulls, one in the middle and two on the side, and then he gave me pretty much free hand of how to do it and what to do with it, which is greatly appreciated. Thanks, Dave. Cheers, brother. Right, so I've printed off some guidelines of what Dave wanted. So that's one of the skulls is going to be on the side. There's the one that I'm going to go in the middle. A couple of other, different sizes and different materials. So that is my guideline. Now I just need to find the correct size for the centerpiece, correct size for the side covers over here. Well, not side covers, but for the side of a petrol tank. And what I need to do with that, just to get it accurately as close to this image as possibly can, I need to cut a roadmap for myself. So basically cut all the positive or negative areas of that image, so I can just kind of make myself a roadmap, if you want it, like a GPS roadmap, so I know how the image looks. This is not making a stencil. I don't really like working with stencils. Sometimes stencils help when it comes to airbrushing, but I'll try to stay away from stencils as often as I can. I believe in doing one of art. Freehand is way to go. It's much better way to progress. Plus it's one-off thing and you kind of do it yourself, even though the image is going to be, that's a guideline, or this is the guideline. It's going to be like that, but I've got my own artistic interpretation of it. Using stencil is always just not the way to go, really. So what I'll do, I cut the roadmap from these images, make sure they fit over here, and yeah, we'll take it from there. Cheers. Right guys, nearly there. Just quickly explain what I've done over there. I didn't cut everything out completely. I left things, as you can see, loose a little bit, so I can peel it back off, mask it back on. Same with the nose over here and stuff over here. They all kind of see cuts everywhere, but the whole image is still kind of together, so you can see the teeth and stuff. And I'm not going to the great detail on this both images. Where's the other one? Not going to great detail on this both images because they're not very detailed. They're pretty much black and white. So I just cut off, it's a basic, the idea behind this, it's cut off a basic roadmap. So I know I can kind of put it on, spray it gently, very, very gently to the negative spaces, peel one thing off, spray another part on, kind of tape it in, put it back on, and so I know where things are. And this is exactly what it is. It's just a roadmap. There's no details on it, just a roadmap. So the image is symmetrical, it's proportional, and it looks like the original image more or less. So I've got like a rough stencil, if you like it, a roadmap of where things are, and from that point I leave the paper alone. I got kind of a reference picture. I've looked on the side, kind of more or less, but there's not much reference on this because it's just black and white. So I need to use my own imagination and interpretation of a human skull, or whatever that skull that is, just to add details, depth and perception and all that stuff to it, shadows and everything else that I'm going to create on top of that, because there's going to be some other stuff going on as well, which is completely freehand. Yeah, so that's all coming in next episode, because I'm running out of time now. I still need to prepare my airbrush, I still need to clean it up, I still need to mix some paint, but I will cover that in the next episode. And I promise you, on the next episode on this petrol tank, we will cover as much as we can of that stuff with skulls and fire and you name it, whatever's going to be there. I'm quite looking forward to this little project. I know some of you are as well, so I'm not gonna stretch it too long. Let's just get to work, but not today because I ain't got time today. I need to have full day off and sit my ass down, focus on that fucking thing and do it. And I thank you for a ride with me as well. Hope you enjoyed. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching so far. Have a beer, rock hard, and I'll see you next time. Yeah.